What kind of industries are likely to survive in the future? And what part do you think language travel will play in this? Is language travel part of the solution or part of the problem? It may seem strange, perhaps insensitive, to be asking these questions when our industry is struggling with COVID-19, and nothing I say today lessens the sympathy I'm sure we all feel for those affected by COVID through their health or through its economic impacts. But when COVID is behind us, the future will still be there, and with it the climate and ecological crisis facing us all. So now is a good time to think about this. I expect many of you will have seen this cartoon. I don't mind admitting I'm scared. I'm scared for the future of my business as part of the language travel industry, but more than that, I'm scared for my children, my grandchildren, my nephews and nieces in the face of the climate and ecological crisis that is increasingly apparent. And I'm also angry. I'm angry at the inadequate response of our government and others over these issues. Let's put it another way. Do you remember in the middle of lockdown the beautiful deep blue skies, the clean air, the quiet roads, the sound of bird song, wildlife coming back into our towns and cities? It felt like a vision of a better world. Now, imagine a sky full of contrails of aircraft bringing students to our schools. Is that part of the future? Or is our industry history? Well, this young lady would tell us that we are history, and I don't think it's just greater. We all know people of all ages, perhaps including ourselves, who have made big changes in their lives to reduce their carbon footprint. We shouldn't be so arrogant as to think this doesn't extend to our students of all ages, or for that matter to the professional teachers living abroad, who we hope will help to staff our courses. So we have a problem. At the same time, it's good to remind ourselves that international trade has a long history in human affairs and is generally considered to be a good thing. When one area exchanges what it's good at producing with a product or service best produced in another area, everyone benefits. For example, there's no point in producing oranges in greenhouses in Kent when they grow perfectly well outdoors in Valencia. UK education is no different. People come to the UK to learn English because we do it well. And to the extent that learning English in the UK is part of a wider experience of the country whose language our students are learning, it's difficult to replicate. There are additional benefits which I hardly need mention here. Travel broadens the mind, it makes people more tolerant and independent and helps them to develop as people. And none of us, I suppose, came into English language education to make the world a worse place. So how do we square this circle? Well, first, obviously, reduce air travel. Focus on trade with our geographical neighbours. Not, I know, a priority for our current government, but we can still try to do this. Secondly, encourage overland travel, and ditto the above. And thirdly, as Chris Graham said earlier, encourage our students to stay for longer, in the same way, for example, that many of us no longer take short breaks that involve flying. Fourthly, educate our clients about things like the different carbon footprints for people flying economy and business, and advise them to fly direct if possible. Encourage parents to book their children onto airlines that still offer a service, so avoiding the ridiculous current requirement for them to be accompanied by an adult guardian on their flight. But when all that is said and done, we still have a problem. We know that the vast majority of our students will come to us by plane. And that still leaves a large carbon footprint for our industry, which risks leaving us stuck in the past. That's where carbon compensation comes in. And I use the word compensation deliberately. It implies a victim and a cost. The victim, in the case of air travel, is the planet. And beyond that, all of the people, disproportionately those on low incomes, who will increasingly suffer if we do nothing. There may be some who think that this is not really our job as ELT professionals to compensate for our students' flights. But those flights would not exist without our industry. Others might say that carbon compensation doesn't address the real issue, which is that we need to fly less, and that may be true, but it still leaves us with a problem. And actually, carbon compensation does address the issue by removing an equivalent amount of CO2 from the atmosphere as that produced by our students when they fly to join our courses. Other people might be put off by the cost, or perhaps they're hoping for some kind of technological solution, like these hydrogen-powered planes. Well, we can hope, but in the meantime, the crisis worsens, and if we do nothing, we risk losing everything. So how do we go about compensating for our students' flights? Well, it's not difficult, and our page at TEDx Footprint UK will walk you through the process. First, measure your students' travel. Most of us probably already have the data we need. You might need to ask some additional things like the class of travel or whether the flight was direct. And then calculate the greenhouse gas emissions for each student's round trip using a reliable calculator. Add these together to find the total number in kilos or metric tons of the CO2 emissions of your students' flights. Choose your preferred project at a reliable offset platform such as the one you're seeing now. Enter the total, pay the cost, and take comfort in the knowledge that you've done a good thing. Why is it a good thing? Well, for one, doing nothing is not an option. If we take no action, we may have no future. So what is the one thing your organisation can do that will have the biggest impact on your carbon footprint? I would like to suggest it is this. Also, as indicated by the title of this talk, carbon compensation offers the opportunity to do social good. You may have seen these UN Sustainable Development Goals. Together, these provide a kind of blueprint for a better world, and your carbon compensation payments can help to bring it about. For example, let's take a compensation payment directed towards a clean stoves project in Malawi. This is just a short 3.5-minute video.
This is Malawi, Africa, and these two children and their grandmother each smoke the equivalent of 40 cigarettes every day. It's not from cigarettes though, it's from a 3-stone cooking fire.
My name is Jeffrey Ferber from Ripple Africa, and behind me is a Malawian kitchen. And as you can see, there's lots of smoke coming out. That's because they're using a 3-stone fire, which is the traditional way of cooking here in Africa. It uses a huge amount of wood and produces a lot of smoke. And in fact, around the world, about 1.5 to 2 million people die prematurely from smoke inhalation from cooking fires like this.
It's not only the smoke that is a problem.
This is a 3-year-old girl who fell into a 3-stone fire a few days ago and sustains quite large burns.
At Ripple Africa, we've developed this simple, safe, fuel-efficient cook stove. We call it the Changu Changu Moto, which means fast, fast fire.
These women are so strong, and just imagine they're carrying about 3 or 4 loads like this every week just to do the cooking.
This is how much wood is saved by using a Changu moto in just 3 or 4 weeks. It's the equivalent of over 100 bundles of wood saved by each Changu moto per year. This cook stove also produces a lot less smoke and is much safer because the fire is contained and positioned at the side of the kitchen, and it is less likely that children will suffer serious burns. It also cooks faster and has the benefit of 2 stoves. It is made out of 26 bricks and a mud mixture. It takes about 1 hour to build, and just look how easy it is to put together. We already have over 650 people trained and making this Changu moto cook stove, but we want more people to benefit from this simple technology. So help us to make these dangerous and wasteful 3-stone fires a thing of the past, and make a donation to our Changu moto fuel efficient cook stove program. Thank you.
Now, I defy anyone watching that video not to want to do something to help. And you can. You can invest in that project and many others like it through the UN's Climate Neutral Now platform. Education is all about the future, and carbon compensation gives us a way to prove that we care about it. If UK study travel organisations do the right thing now, they can become part of the solution, significantly reducing their carbon footprint and helping to bring about a cleaner, fairer, sustainable future for the planet and its people.